Our guest today on Caribbeana is Professor Opal Palmer Adisa, and she is a professor. She's at the University of the West Indies and Mona campus, Jamaica. And, I was checking out and I saw, man, this lady is something. She's heavy. She's written books and poetry. So I decided today I wanted people to know a little more about Professor Adisa Palmer. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, uh, I know you.
Okay.
Yeah,
When,
yeah,
when whenever people ask a question, I'm never quite sure where to begin, but I'll begin by saying this. I have just retired from the university because there's so many projects I want to do and working, teaching full time, I have not been able to. So I'm born in Jamaica,
right.
lived abroad for a very long time, went to undergraduate in New York, then came back home. My undergraduate degree was in educational media. So I worked at the Educational Broadcasting Service as an education officer, producing radio and TV programs for
Right,
schools.
right.
Then I decided I wanted to do, there's this loud truck passing my house. I don't know if you're hearing it.
Yeah,
Then
no
I
problem.
decided I wanted to do a graduate degree and I didn't want to go back to New York. So I went to California and I did my master's degree in creative writing at San Francisco State and then
Yeah.
did a second degree in theater. And then I decided I wanted to do a doctorate, or Barbara Christian, who originally was from St. Thomas. She was my mentor, and she is the first Black woman to get tenure at Berkeley. She said I should do a PhD. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, why not? I did my PhD in ethnic studies and literature,
Yeah.
and was always planning to come back home. But you get caught up, you get married, you have children, you have a
Right,
job. So I stayed there much longer than I had intended. But let me focus on what it is right now.
right.
So, in addition to being a writer, I am a gender and culture advocate because, as many people know, throughout the world and the Caribbean also, um, gender based violence is real. In fact, today, in May 19th, there's a protest. I didn't go to it because I wasn't feeling too well.
Uh,
A protest because a 9-year-old girl was murdered and raped, and then another woman was killed by her boyfriend. So gender based violence is off the wall.
yes,
Violence in the Caribbean is off the wall, and we
yeah.
really need to pay more attention to that and what is the historical antecedents of why we have so much violence.
Right, right.
So that's a big project of mine. And in 2019, I started Thursday in Black. Thursday in Black had been started many years before by the church, but I revitalized it and I put the emphasis on gender based violence. And so
Yeah,
the idea was on Thursdays, everybody who is committed to ending violence and specifically gender based violence would wear black. And we hosted several protests in the Kingston area.
yeah.
And the objective of that, and it's a project I still want, and anybody who has funding or know of funding, please let me know. The aim of the project was to have a core group in all of the 14 parishes in Jamaica,
Uh-huh.
and we would come together and work together and sensitize the people in the various parishes to end violence because violence is not something that's going to end just by women or just going to be end by a small group.
Yes,
People have to be educated to see how they've been programmed really to act in a violent way rather than talking. We have to learn to talk to each other. We have to understand. We have to learn to understand that people don't have to agree with you. It doesn't mean you're going to kill them. That
right.
you might love somebody, they might not love you back, but there's no reason for you to kill them
Yeah,
because conversely, it might be the same thing. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen in the
yeah,
Caribbean
yeah,
about our emotions and how we deal with them.
yeah.
So that's a project that is ongoing for me, and I'd like funding to really, uh, as I said, establish a core group in each parish and to sensitize the entire parishes, and
Right,
then for us to come together maybe 4 times for the year and hold demonstrations to engage the community, to hear what they're saying.
yeah,
Today one man was saying violence can't end. Well, why do you think that? I don't believe that.
Right.
What makes you believe that violence can't end? What makes you believe that men and women can't learn to be in relationships without violence? I believe that's possible. I think violence is something that we learn.
Yes.
So that's one project. My other project, which I launched this year in February, is called the Adisa Ancestry Artist Residency. And there are many residencies, artist residencies in North America, throughout Europe, in other places in Mexico, but
Mhm.
there really aren't any residencies in the Caribbean. And I want
Right.
to establish a place where writers and visual artists can come for 2 weeks or 2 months and have that time to work on to do their work,
Yes. Yes.
for us to begin to understand that creativity is important and it's a process, and writers and painters and dancers and all of the other mediums in between, they need time and space to concentrate on their work.
You're
Now, it's
right.
amazing to me that Jamaica and Trinidad and Guyana and all of these islands, we've produced incredible writers,
Yes.
incredible artists,
Yes.
but they never had full time to work on their work, and many of them need that.
Yeah.
So I have started the Adisa Ancestry Artist Residency in Jamaica, and I'm hope there will be more residencies that will open up, not just in Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean, that provides that space
You're right.
for artists. So I'm looking for people to endorse, to sponsor artists. So because I'm doing this out of my own pocket,
Oh
and my
Lord.
pocket is very small,
All right.
so
Yeah.
I'm looking for people who want to fund an artist, and to fund
Yeah.
an artist to come for 2 weeks is just $500.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there has $500 and want to fund a Caribbean artist,
Right.
please contact me via the website Adisa Ancestry.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
So that's one project.
Yeah.
Um, Another project, I don't know if you're aware, Val, but I think you are. Because of social media, our children don't know a lot about us. I went to do a
Yes.
storytelling with a school, and the children couldn't even tell me an Nancy story. I was just shocked. They're on these machines, and they don't know anything about Jamaica. They don't know anything about Trinidad. Well, maybe they know a little bit more. So I want my cultural aspect is to let our children know and feel pride about who they are. What do you know
Yeah.
about Jamaica? What do you know about Antigua? And children in Jamaica should know about Trinidad, and
Yeah.
children in Trinidad should know about Jamaica and Barbados and
Yeah.
Antigua, because we're cousins.
Yes.
So I want to start a program, and I really want to engage young people who know the technology so they can use the technology to create Anansi stories. So
Yeah.
they can use the technology to talk about Sukuyan,
Right.
and that we
Right.
can modernize it, and we could make it something that people come for, rather than we just always going to North America or Japan for these games. They
Yeah.
come to us
Right.
because
Right.
we have something they want, and they come to us for our music, but
Yeah.
they could come to us for our folklore, for our culture.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So these are, go
yes.
ahead.
No, no, I was now going to say that perhaps perhaps it's a sense of our history that has invoked a lot of this on us, coming out
Oh,
of those.
absolutely. I agree. I agree. I think it's because of colonialism and the
Right.
fact that we've been devalued as a people, as a society. We're just a place where they extract the raw material, or they
Right.
come for vacation, right? They
Right.
come and they get the sun, the sea, and whatever. And they don't see us as a real place, real people with creativity and inventiveness and artistry and a history. And
Yeah.
we have not spent the time to study and teach our children that.
Yeah. That,
Colonialism tried to erase us, to give
yes.
us their identity.
Yeah.
When I was growing up and when you were growing up, we were told that the queen was the motherland.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Nobody told us about Africa. Nobody told us that the
Yeah.
British had been ripping us off for
Right.
centuries and not paying us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where we still are. We're supposedly independent, but
And it,
we have not really,
but
we have
it's
not fully seized our independence.
but it's going on still, because in the United States, for example, what we are going through with this situation with the Trumpism and the MAGA and all of these things are impacting upon us. And
Absolutely.
so it's taking away time for us to learn of our African American brothers and sisters who are common, who have come out of a common ingredient of ours, and but we still need to know and learn about each other. I mean, why?
Exactly.
No, my
And
niece.
that's what I want to promote. This,
Yeah,
it's a kind. I guess it's not new. It would be kind of a Pan African culture
right,
where
right.
we look at African Americans, we look at African people in the Caribbean, we
Yeah,
look at Africans. All of us have been victims of colonization.
yes, yes,
All
yes,
of us. Oh, and I mean, Africa should be one of the wealthiest countries in the world because of all of the natural resources it has. But
yes,
Africans don't control it.
yes,
One time, Jamaica was the third largest export of bauxite, and people still don't have running water. And there's still people in the rural areas that don't have running water.
yes,
Trinidad had Pitch Lake,
yes,
right? And
yes,
and there's still people who are pure and suffering and don't have houses because they've extracted it and they never gave us our share.
right, right,
So
right.
what Mia Motley says from Barbados about CARICOM becoming a strong unit
Yes,
and demanding our full share has to happen. It can't happen if just Jamaica raising his little flag and Trinidad running around. We have to come together as a unit, as a solid
yeah,
economic and social unit and demand our just due.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think governments have a role here to play,
A
um,
major role.
a major role. How does that? How do we correct that? How we not correct it, but how we help make it happen? You know, some of the membership of governments are aware, like Mayor Motley and these people, but others, it 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 seems as though they're lost, and
Well, I think it's part of the colonial brainwashing that, go be independent and then you can do this. So you have a flag and you raise your flag, but your flag don't have anything because you is a little man in the big game.
yeah, yeah,
You Jamaica, you Trinidad, you Antigua, you Barbados, you're a little man in the game that can just blow you over. But
yes,
if you Jamaica and you Trinidad and you Antigua and you Grenada and you Guyana come together and it's a fist, they
right,
can't blow you over.
yes,
And unfortunately, so many of our leaders, we don't have enough leaders like the Mia Motley, the Gonzalez, who
yeah,
are talking that unity. We have other leaders who think they can negotiate,
yeah,
with the
yeah,
IMF on their own. So
yeah,
they're brainwashed.
yeah,
They still think the capitalist, me by myself is the way to go, not
yeah,
understanding that you can't go anywhere.
yeah, yeah. No, there was a time when we had good, solid leaders that were moving. People like Michael Manley, Eric Williams,
Eric Williams.
you know, these guys, they were moving and shaking. But again, they didn't have the rest of the support mechanism to make them achieve what was necessary to be achieved. Would you agree with that?
Right. Nor did they understand the importance of alliance.
Okay.
So they were doing great things in their respective countries, but the other aspect of that was to create strong alliance with their brothers and sisters in the other region to make that happen.
Yes.
I think Mia Motley and her philosophy is one that could lead us in direction if we can get the rest of the Caribbean leaders to buy into it.
Yeah.
And I think what is happening with Trump and Trumpism might be the very catalyst we need to understand that we need to unify as a group.
Yeah.
And as a unified group, we have much more power and much more opportunity to negotiate loans or whatever
Yeah.
that is more in our favor than that's against us.
Yes.
We have more power to say, listen, you go and you get those South Africans and you give them visas, but you're limiting our people, and our people have provided more work and more resources and have availed to build America than these white South African racist people.
Yeah.
So, that is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And how? I'm not a politician, I'm a writer,
Yeah.
and I'm an optimist. And I do think it can happen, but it needs our leaders in the Caribbean, as well as our leaders in Africa and Latin America, to understand the power of unity as opposed to individualism.
Right, right. Excellent. Well, we have the solution, so we have to just move on and work on it and get it done.
Absolutely.
Your works, I mean, your books and so on, are they available or anything like that?
Yes, yes, yes. People say people in the Caribbean don't read. I don't think that's true. I think for people in the Caribbean, books are expensive and the cost of living is high. I
Yeah,
do think there is a cadre of people in the Caribbean who do have the money to purchase books and should purchase books more. My books are available on many platforms. You can just Google my name.
right.
Um, and what I'm happy to say is that there's so many now really wonderful Caribbean writers.
Yes,
And so I'm happy to be a part of that cadre.
yeah,
I'm also writing children's book, and I'm children's book specifically because I want children to see themselves
yes,
reflected in the Caribbean and to understand that their lives are important.
yeah,
And those books are also available online.
yeah,
And, again, it takes a village, as they say, a village of writers, a village of artists
yeah,
to work together so that we can raise the availability and the accessibility of Caribbean literature. So a few people get out because they get major prizes,
yeah, yeah,
but the rest of writers who are doing good work or equally as good work don't necessarily get the attention.
yeah,
And so what I invite people to do is to look beyond those who are promoted and to see all of the others who
yeah,
are telling important stories that need to be heard
yeah,
and who are really helping to create a positive Caribbean landscape of stories
right.
that we have not told, because there's so many stories here that we need to
Yes,
tell
yeah,
of
yeah,
our triumph, of our struggles, of our ancestry. There are so many stories that need to be told, and so I invite Caribbean people, particularly those in the diaspora who has a little bit more means,
mhm.
to really seek out and purchase not just my books, but the books by other Caribbean writers.
Right, 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 right. I started it a bit late, but I've been able to accomplish one. I'm on two. By the end of all of this, I should finish about three books. So I'm
Excellent.
looking forward to, and it's simply because when I realize and I look at the work that we do, what we talk about and record,
Mhm.
it needs to be transferred into a book form.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you're doing this, Vaughn, because
Yeah.
you have a wealth. You probably have 20 books.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
if you were to transcribe all of the interviews you do and then to
Yes.
contextualize, which
Yeah.
also needs to happen,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
that people come in afterwards can understand why you were interviewing these people and what were their significance and their roles. So you
Right.
probably have that book, and you too need an endowment or a
Yeah.
grant to get someone to
Right.
help you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
it's really important. It's good to have this medium, the oral tradition,
yes.
the
Yeah.
oral audio, but
Yeah.
also we need to document it so that we can contextualize it in
Yeah.
a way that it becomes scholarship and
Yes.
not just something you hear.
Exactly so. And this is why I have a group of young people I work with who work with me, and they are carrying me in this vein. And so I'm
Nice.
hoping that the opportunity will come soon where I can get the material transcribed. We have a nonprofit organization, Caribbeana Communications Incorporated. So we are trying to get grants. And once we get some
Yes.
grants, we'll be able to have that transcribed and put together and result in the same form that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really important. But you have an incredible archive of audio tapes, and we're in
Yes.
a generation of listening. So you need to like put up on your, I don't know, platform
Yeah.
all of the people you have and categorize it.
Yeah. Well,
So these people know that you
yeah.
have all of this history.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have done it. In fact, right now, if you go to YouTube Caribbeana TV channel, you will see
Mhm.
all the interviews I've done. And there are some special documentaries that's dear to my heart. It's up there. It's called Caribbeana History and Song, where I took a look at the history of the Caribbean as defined by three forms of music: calypso, reggae, and cadence. And
Mm.
within those documentaries, the voices of Rex Nettleford, I mean, can be heard. Gordon Roller, all kinds of people are in those documentaries.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
trying
because
to,
again, they tend to promote our music, and I have nothing against that. It
yeah,
has generated income. But I think people oftentimes don't think about the Caribbean scholars that we have,
yes, yes,
the
yes, yes,
intellects that we have, the
yes,
people who are shaping identity and history.
yes,
And so they need to also know that there's a breadth to us.
yes,
Not
yes,
just
yes,
this one thing,
yes, yes,
not just mastered this one thing where there's this breadth.
right,
I forget where I went. Maybe because when I was in Italy and I was asking people if they knew about pan and the calypso, which is
yes,
the most innovative form that was developed in Trinidad.
right,
And people were like, no, we don't know of it.
yes, yes.
Those things need to be promoted.
Yes, 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 yes. It's so fascinating because I some people are now, and a publisher is now trying to get me now to get my book globally published
Hmm.
on the book I did on Voices of Pan Pioneers. And I'm saying, Lord, this is something else. So I have to that now that has to take a different business sense in my head to make that mark and get it done. So we got a lot of work to do, man. And I gotta
Yeah,
thank
we have a lot of work to do. We don't,
yeah.
we need to live at least another 100 years.
Yeah.
At least how I feel. I need to live at least another 100 years to write the books I want to write and to get the
Yes,
projects
yes,
that I
yes,
want to get done.
yes, yes,
And to get the support, we
yes,
need people support, we need the financial support, we need the marketing support. So you can
yes,
have a good product, but if nobody knows about it or can't access it,
yes,
then,
yes, yes,
so we need all of those support.
yes, 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 yes. Well, Professor, it's a pleasure talking to you as always. And please, I hope you won't be upset if I call on you again, as your project
I love to
advances,
talk to you. I
you know.
think your program and what you're doing, documenting our stories, is really important. And
Yes,
I really am um, honored and grateful for the opportunity for this platform to share some of the work that I'm doing because, a lot of people don't know about it. I'm in my little corner here.
yeah,
So this is an opportunity for people to know about it and for maybe people to reach out to say, hey, I
yeah,
support what you're doing and I want to see how I can help. So
yeah.
I thank you very earnestly and very gratefully for this opportunity. And yes, you can call on me again.
All right. I've been speaking with Professor Opal Palmer Adisa from Jamaica, the University of the West Indies, Mona campus in Jamaica. This is Von Martin. Caribbeana continues.